Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Sills, your instructional librarian. Thank you so much for taking a moment to listen to this recording. Whether you're building courses, finding materials, or trying to avoid copyright landmines, this session is for you. Today, we'll be talking about copyright and OERs and what you can use and how to use it legally. And again, I'm Allison Sills, and this is my contact information. Today, we're going to be covering copyright, which also includes fair use, the Teach Act, and Creative Commons. We'll be talking about OER, or Open Educational Resources, and how they support your teaching, and OpenNCCC, which is our statewide OER repository, and best practices for staying legal and ethical in your teaching materials. So what is copyright? Copyright is the exclusive legal right to print, publish, perform, film, or record literary, artistic, or musical material and to authorize others to do the same. Copyright protection is automatic. No forms, no registration, no magic words are needed. The moment your work is written, saved, or recorded in some fixed form, it's copyrighted. It can't just be an idea. It must be in a fixed form. The framers of the U.S. Constitution believe that securing for a limited time exclusive rights of authors to their writing would promote the progress of science and useful arts. This would allow creators to make some money off their work and to protect that work from theft, and the public would receive the benefit of the work that might not otherwise have been created were no financial gain possible, for instance. Stephen King, would he write and publish for free? Well, he might, but many wouldn't. So, in the country's earliest days, they wanted to secure that right. And it doesn't just cover published work, unpublished created works are also copyrighted. Every personal letter, every original garage band song is covered as long as it's been created. And copyright law has changed significantly over the years. In 1790, copyright only lasted for 14 years, with the right of renewal for another 14 if the author survived the first term. But they had to request that. So 28 total years was the maximum intent, but life expectancy in 1776 was only around 38 years. So now it's around 78 years. So things have definitely changed since then. There are two types of copyright. There is copyright that is made by an individual and work for hire. Works by individuals are protected for the life of the author plus 70 years, which is why Christopher Tolkien still retains the rights to The Lord of the Rings 50 years after his father's death. He still got 20 years on that copyright. And why Amazon paid $250 million for the rights to make the Rings of Power. And works for hire last for 95 years, thanks in no small part to Disney. Since 1790, both kinds of these term limits have elongated again and again. Not only were people living longer, but also new formats were coming along, like radio became a lucrative business, as did television and filmmaking. And properties were running longer, like Doctor Who and Disney. Doctor Who's 62 years old. Disney's been around much longer than that. As you can see in this 1928, still, Disney created Mickey Mouse, then called Steamboat Willie, in an animated short called Steamboat Willie. This animated character took off and helped create a media dynasty. Mickey still anchors the Disney brand, which is often characterized by the Mickey Mouse ears. So even though Steamboat Willie is no longer under copyright as of last year, the colorized version with the red pants is still under copyright. So even if a version is available, you have to make sure that you're using the version that is in public domain. There's another 10 years before the red pants colorized version of Mickey is in public domain. Public domain means that a work is no longer under copyright, or it never was, such as a government document, and is free to use, including for profit. But just because something enters the public domain doesn't mean it's completely fair game for you to use. Yes, you can use the Steamboat Willie Mickey in your class project, but you can't sell Mickey Mouse t-shirts unless you want Disney's legal team to come knocking. Why? Because of trademark law. Mickey's ears logo and the Disney name, those are trademarks, and they never expire as long as they're being actively defended. So you can use public domain images in your lessons. You can't start selling mugs with the Disney name or logo on Etsy, just to make that sort of a little bit clearer. It's very complicated. Fair use. What is fair use? Fair use is a legal defense. It's not law. It allows limited use of copyrighted materials without permission under certain circumstances, like education, research, news reporting, criticism, or parody. If you consider four factors, the four factors are purpose, nature, amount, and effect on the market value. We'll cover these. These are the four things you need to think of when you're considering your fair use defense. The first one is purpose. Purpose assesses whether the use of the copyrighted material is transformative or used for purposes such as criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research, parody, or satire. All of you are covered by the teaching definitions. So for you, purpose is typically covered already. So you've got one of the factors already in your fair use defense. Amount. Amount looks at the quantity and significance of the material used. How much do you want to copy? How important is the section that you used? Best practice is one chapter or one poem from a book, or one article from a journal, or 10% or less. And just remember the Pirates of the Caribbean code. The code is more what you'd call guidelines than actual rules. Use what you need, but if you need a significant amount of information, it might be best to assign a textbook or look for a free alternative. Nature. Nature evaluates the type of material being used, considering whether it's factual or creative in nature. Something factual is more likely to be eligible for fair use than a creative work of fiction. And just about everything you'll be showing in class is probably nonfiction. So again, this would be a facet of fair use that you would have going in your favor. And effect on the market. Effect considers how the use of the copyrighted material might affect the market value of the original. Could it substitute for the original, impacting its market value? I would steer clear of using images from a website that charges money for products. Shopping sites pay professional photographers to photograph and display their work, and they absolutely do use tools like Google Image Search to check that their copyrighted images are being used or not used from time to time. So if you need a photo of someone in a t-shirt, I would not choose a photo from, say, the Gap's website. There are better places to find copyright-free images. So where can you source ethical images? For images, you can try Creative Commons. We'll talk about that a little more in a minute. Pixabay, Canva. Canva has a very robust free version, and you can pay for a pro version and get many more images. That is what this presentation was made with today. Canva, excellent product. And Unsplash, which I have not used yet. But even if you use these, always check the license first, just to make sure. So the TEACH Act, there are some rules that have been introduced, like the TEACH Act or the Technology Education and Copyright Harmonization Act of 2002, that expanded what you can and cannot do. The TEACH Act made copyright laws regarding distance learning closer to the laws provided for face-to-face learning. Some of these benefits include you may use a wider range of works in distance learning environments. Students may participate in distance learning sessions from virtually anywhere. And participants may enjoy greater latitude when it comes to storing, copying, and digitizing material. What you can't do. You must limit the access to enrolled students only. Avoid textbooks or works typically purchased. Only use reasonable and limited excerpts, and information must be shared information that is shared must be legally acquired and used, such as licensing versus owning. For instance, using a video in class can be really confusing these days, especially when it feels like there are easy workarounds like using Netflix. But copyright law draws a firm line. In face-to-face, in-person classes, you're allowed to show legally obtained DVDs, purchased DVDs, the physical copy of the DVD, under both Fair Use and the TEACH Act, as long as the video supports your course content. Physical DVDs are owned media, and ownership carries limited rights that allows this use. However, those rights don't extend to hybrid or asynchronous classes. That's where things shift. Showing videos in an online setting is more restricted, even if you own the DVD or purchased a digital copy. Streaming services like Netflix or Paramount Plus operate under licensing agreements that do not allow classroom sharing. Your Netflix or Paramount Plus account is licensed for personal use only. Even purchased digital content is subject to license terms that restrict educational use. YouTube videos that are obviously full length movies are likely to have been uploaded without permission. Sharing links to commercial streaming platforms or illegally uploaded movies from YouTube violates licensing agreements and can expose the college to legal risk. The safest route is to use institutionally licensed services like Films on Demand, which provide a wide range of quality educational videos. And if you have any doubts, the library is always available to help you find legal, high quality alternatives. For instance, as you can see in this Netflix terms of service, it says the Netflix service and any content accessed through our service are for your personal and non commercial use only and may not be shared with individuals beyond your household unless otherwise allowed by your subscription plan, which isn't likely. You agree not to use the service for public performances, so they cover it in their terms of service. Creative Commons is a nonprofit organization and network devoted to educational access and expanding the range of creative works available for others to build upon legally and to share what would otherwise be a creative work. They offer licenses that tell users what they can and can't do with a piece of content. These licenses don't replace copyright, they work within it. Creators can pick a license based on what they want to do. If you see the buy icon, this first one, that means the creator would like to be attributed by name when you use their work. If you see the share alike, that means that the author allows you to use or alter or modify the work, but wants you to keep the work under the same conditions going forward, such as always share and attribute or always free. Some authors will specifically state that they want their work to remain non-commercial, and this means that you may use but not sell or use for profit anything that you take from them. And some authors will specify that they don't want any changes made to their work by assigning a non-derivative license. And any author may use any combination of those. The intent of most Creative Commons work is to allow for educational free sharing of ideas. There are 6 license combinations. For example, buy, they just want you to attribute, or they could use 3, which is the buy, non-commercial, non-derivative. And you might see none of these. They might not even want to be attributed. OER, or Open Educational Resources, are free, openly licensed teaching and learning materials that anyone can use, adapt, and share. OERs are free, openly licensed, adaptable, meant to be used in education, and they can be anything from textbooks to assignments to videos to slide decks and even full courses. They are, and they support the 5 R's of open use, which are retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. The 5 R's of OER use are retain, which means you can make, own, and control a copy of the resource. Example, you can download and keep your own copy. Revise, which is to edit, adapt, and modify your copy of the resource. For instance, if you want to translate something into another language. Remix, or combine your original or revised copy of the resource with other existing material to create something brand new. Example, make a mashup. 4 is reuse. You can use your original, revised, or remixed copy of the resource anywhere you want, for example, on a website, in a presentation, or in a class. And you can redistribute it. You can share copies of your original, revised, or remixed copy of the resource with others. For example, post a copy online or give one to a friend. This allows the faculty freedom. You can customize OER to match your teaching style, your students' needs, or even your course goals. And the benefits are amazing. Why use them? You use them to for cost savings for students. Textbook costs are a huge barrier these days. Since 1980, textbook costs have gone up over 1,000%, which is higher and faster than medical care and housing prices. And they're flexible for faculty to use. You're not locked into one publisher's content. They increase access and impartiality. All students can get their materials on day one. Some won't have to wait for their loan to come in or their FAFSA. And they encourage collaboration and innovation within your department and amongst other professionals. You can revise, remix, and share with others. And this can be a real game changer in the community college system. What is Open NCCC? Open NCCC is a shared repository created by the North Carolina Community College System where faculty can find, use, and contribute open educational resources, or OER. It supports collaboration across colleges to reduce textbook costs, it promotes fairness, and improves access to high-quality instructional material. So let me show you how it works. When you go to Open NCCC's website, you can Google them. You come to this search landing page. You can type in what you're looking for, such as nursing, and you can pick a subject if you want to just look for a blanket subject without even typing in a search question. You can pick your educational level. I'll go with continuing education. You can pick course alignment, seems to only be one option, but then just hit search and begin searching. You'll see you have 19 results. There are significantly more if you open up the search to different educational standards or subject areas. You can refine your results by how many you want to see per page. You can sort them by relevance, title. You can do date added if you want the most recent results. And you can certainly take all of these facets that are on the left and do an advanced search and make your original search more precise by going to advanced search and go ahead and clicking through all of the facets that you might want there. And it's as easy as that. So best practices for copyright, a few key reminders when using copyrighted content. Educational use doesn't always mean fair use. Please think about all four factors. Even educational use can fail the test if you post an entire textbook on Blackboard without express permission of the content owner, or post a copyrighted work that a non-educational business, like my example from the t-shirt from the Gap's website, objects to you using their images. Also think about prioritizing legally required content. Look for free to use content. Canva and Pixabay, great resources. Understand the limits of the Teach Act. The Teach Act did put a lot of things in writing that many people were already doing, especially during COVID, but it didn't really expand copyright significantly. It just put in some standard best practices in writing. So make sure you know the limits of the Teach Act. And don't assume that citing equals permission. Citing is an academic standard, so we do ask that you do it, but it doesn't mean that you have permission to use like the image from the Gap just because you cite it's from the Gap. That image is still copyrighted. They're making money off of it. They hired a professional to do it. Wouldn't use that image. Go to Canva, find an ethical image that you can use. And if you have any doubts, check, the library has a research guide on copyright, and you can always ask me for the link to that. And you can ask me about any other questions you might have. Use the chat on the library's front page if you have any questions. It's not just there for students, it's there for you too. And OER, when using OER, Best practices, always look for the Creative Commons or other licenses and abide by what the author requests you to do. Always give proper attribution if noted. Make use of the 5 Rs: retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. Customize OER's content to meet your students' needs, and use reputable OER repositories such as OpenNCCC. And you can check for more reputable OER repositories on the library's research guide on OER. Best practices for OpenNCCC. When using OpenNCCC, search the repository first before creating any new material, because you never know, the perfect book or exercise might already have been written. Contribute your own openly licensed material to help others. Double check that any shared content includes a clear and open license. Encourage collaboration across departments, and contact your library if you need any help on any of this. Thank you so much for listening today. If you need any additional help evaluating content, searching for OER, or understanding copyright law in the classroom, please reach out. Here's my contact information again. Use that chat button on the library's front page. That's what we're here for, and have a great day. Thank you.